Oh, good evening and welcome to our newest members event. We're delighted to have Lexi Tinkler here with us tonight. Lexi, please give us a wave so everyone knows who you are. And Lexi actually has a nice connection with Outdoor Swimmer. She worked with us in 2017, 18, before the pandemic anyway,
Yeah.
back when we were still H2 Open. And Lexi and Jonathan, who was our editor at the time, they ambushed me with the idea for a name change to Outdoor Swimmer, which I resisted because I was very fond of the old name, but it was actually the right thing to do. So thank you for doing that and pushing that through, Lexi.
You
So
took
yeah,
it
you had a
very,
lasting influence on the
oh,
magazine.
oh, Simon, you took it very, very well that day. Very, very well.
Anyway, so since Lexi's moved on from Outdoor Swimmer, she's become a leadership coach and a practitioner of positive psychology. So she's written an article for us about it in the magazine, and I'm delighted that she's come back and joined us tonight. Um, Lexi, do you want to say a couple of words about your move into positive psychology and leadership coaching before we dive in with some questions?
Yes, yeah. So I was a little bit between careers, between jobs, and I found myself doing a bit of admin for a leadership company. Um, and there was one coach in particular that really covered a lot of positive psychology. Up until that point, I'd studied psychology at university. And up until that point, I found organizational psychology and psychology in the workplace pretty boring. And I wasn't a place I wanted to look at all. But when I read this article that she'd written, I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I want to do. And then I found a place to go and study. And that was probably about 5 years ago now.
Yeah. Okay, so let's sort of narrow it down a little bit and tell us, because I didn't know what positive psychology was. And you've explained a little bit about what drew you to it, this amazing person you met. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what positive psychology is and what it isn't. I think that's quite
Yeah, thank you.
important.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. So, positive psychology is the science of flourishing and living the good life and thriving. Oh, I'm on a bit of a.
yeah, I need to mute a couple of people. If your
Okay, thank
microphone's
you.
on, please mute it.
So up until the year 2000, psychology was predominantly based around mental and wellness. So it was all focused on understanding, diagnosing, treating people that were suffering. So anything from depression, anxiety, through to much more bigger diagnosis around schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. And if we think about those kind of that place is like a minus number, what psychology was focused on then was bringing everyone up to zero. So to relieve them of suffering, a huge thing, really, really important, massive. But they never really looked beyond that relief of suffering. Um, and it was just before the year 2000, the president of the American Psychological Society, a guy called Martin Seligman, he'd been a psychologist for about 30 years. He was well into his 50s. And he started an initiative to, to look at those that just seem to do really well in life, those people that really flourish and have got it all going on. So their relationships are good, their careers are good, their health is well. And could we study those people? What do they do? And what is it about them? So he set about looking at that. And what he found was absolutely we can study those people. And it was found that actually, when we think about when we go up to zero, there's a whole other spectrum of when we're in mental wellness. So we can be in mental wellness, but we can be at the really bottom. Something around COVID, a lot of us were languishing. So that's really at the very bottom, through to coping, through to performing, then all the way through to thriving. And from that, they found that actually there's a real recipe that we can look at to make this happen. So we can be really intentional about our well-being and move ourselves up that scale. So it's a really, really quite exciting time. And what's really important for me to say, and you're absolutely right, thank you, Simon, about what it's not. This isn't the kind of um, toxic positivity. This is really about meeting somebody absolutely where they're at and helping them move up that scale. And also accepting that in life we will have inevitable pitfalls, we'll have setbacks, and how we can use the tools and what we know about it to kind of get us back on track and move us forward again.
Right. So that obviously very comprehensive introduction. And one of the reasons we've obviously brought you on here tonight, and we have a
Yes,
swimming audience, is
yes,
we want to somehow link what you're
yes,
saying about positive psychology and flourishing to a sport that we all love and that we all
yeah,
enjoy. And
yeah.
as part of this recipe that you're talking about, is is there a role that we can put for swimming in there, or is there a way that we can use swimming to help us flourish?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's why I know, a little bit about the swimming community, and I know your Renaissance project, Simon. And I think really what's really wonderful about swimming and the swimming journey, and the swimming life is it's so multifaceted. And when you look at what it constitutes to be flourishing and what the science tells us, you can really then use your swimming journey to dial up the elements that you might need within what that is. We can also use it as a way to perform better. So the kind of old model, sorry, in society is, work hard, achieve success, then you'll be happy. What the science really tells us is that when we put happiness and our well-being first, that then leaves us for high performance. So we can absolutely use it both ways, for swimming, and in the swimming community.
So you're saying we could use swimming to help us flourish, and we can use the ideas from flourishing to help us perform better at swimming.
Exactly. Thank
So
you,
you have
Simon.
some sort
Yes,
of
you put that. Yeah,
circular thing. And
that's why you're the
could
writer.
you could you give an example of how you might think about how you might approach doing that? How you might
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if you're aiming towards a swimming goal, maybe, or even if you've just got swimming as a baseline activity that you do because it connects you with nature or whatever. Can you put that into your framework and into your
Yeah,
recipe somehow?
yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of theories of well-being, but the one used by Martin Seligman, who launched positive psychology, is one of the most well-researched, well-renowned. And he talks about five things that help us flourish. Um, Number one is having purpose. So it's really having something that we're connected to that's bigger than ourselves, that's really important to us. And again, it doesn't need to be, a huge charity thing, but it's just about being a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. So that's number one. Another element that helps us flourish is being in flow. So some people call it being in the zone. And this is where, when we're in flow and we're fully engaged, this is where we're challenged, but we can just about meet that challenge. And that's when we feel absolutely alive. So if we're spending our days and we're never challenged, we can kind of get very bored. Yes, we can find that relaxing, but over a while, if we're not challenged, we can find it, life can feel a little bit stale. So it's getting those two elements of right, of feeling challenged, you can just about meet that challenge. And then when you're in that flow, you're also getting feedback that you're progressing. And hearing from some of your swimmers and particularly cold water swimming, you can really know how you can get that from your swimming journey. The other elements are connection and relationships, where as humans, we're absolutely wired to connect. The other one is positive emotions. So when our mind is in positive, it's much more it works so much harder. We're much more likely to problem solve, we're much more likely to overcome challenges, connect with people. So there's things we can do to really put our mind in positive, such one is exercise, of course, because of all the endorphins. Um, and other things like gratitude journaling and using mindset tricks of what went well. So it's really being intentional about these elements of flourishing and how we can use them. I have missed one there, Simon, so I'm just going to check my notes. Oh, a really important, actually, is a really important one for swimmers. It's goals, it's accomplishments. So when we have such a sense of well-being when we achieve goals. So they're your five things:
Hmm.
purpose, being in flow, achieving goals, relationships, and positive emotions.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you with some specific questions on that, but I just
Yes.
wanted to remind everybody here, if you do have questions for Lex as we're going along, please put them in the chat, and we're trying to keep an eye on that, so we can pick up those as well. But I can see from what you're saying that if we take them in the order that you were talking about them, so purpose, um, we can really build purpose around swimming, can't we? Because we can be part of a group that trains together. We could be helping other people on their swimming journeys. Can you think of some other examples of how we can use purpose from swimming in this flourishing framework?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's exactly that. It's coaching, being a coach, helping others. It's almost being part of the team as well. It's who takes the cake, who organizes the groups. It's all of it. It's just being a part of something. That's really worthwhile. And I know also that you do lots of events, is arranging those. So, and the other side, you can flip it as well. And we know that when we're trying to go for goals, when we're trying to do something hard, we put purpose first and it makes us go so much further. So when we put purpose, when things get tough, when we're challenged, we go back to our purpose and we know we can go so much further for so much longer, whatever that may be.
Okay, and can we talk about flow a little bit? Because this is something that interests me a lot, and I've
Yeah,
written a little
sure.
bit about it.
Yeah.
We talk about it quite a lot in swimming because it's something that swimmers seem to experience quite often, and that some swimmers find it, one of the special things about swimming. So, there's I've got sort of two questions on this. One, um, it's something that you don't experience that often. It's not like you're in a flow state the whole day, for example. You might just experience it, once or twice a week during a swim or maybe some other activity you're involved in. But is it the case that, is there a sort of a dose response for this? Do you need to try to get into a flow state like every day for hours at a time,
I
or
love
just
this.
is it like
Yeah.
if you can just like grab a few fleeting moments of it
I
every week or
yeah,
so? Is that where are we with that?
I love that question, Simon. So if we think about flow as challenging and we can just about meet that challenge, we're sometimes going to be pushed because we may be doing something that because we don't know if we're going to just meet it at all. So if the challenge is too high and we can't meet it, that's when we're in stress. So we don't want to get there, or if we do, we want to bring ourselves back quite quickly. But yeah, so, for example, we know that surgeons are in flow a lot of the time because when they're in surgery, it's a challenge. They can meet that challenge, and they're getting feedback that they're moving along. So I don't know about the dosage. You're absolutely right. We couldn't be in it all the time. We'd be pretty exhausted. But it's a really good question. I think we should just thrive to be in it, and also, it's another, and I've got it in my notes for later, is asking ourselves, have we challenged ourselves? What have we done today to challenge ourselves? And it's that feeling of aliveness. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, it's a great question, and I actually don't know the answer. I don't know, but do you know what, Simon? I do know someone who's doing a PhD in flow, and I'm going to absolutely ask her if there's a dosage.
Okay.
What we do know, however, is we need to set up conditions for flow.
Yeah, that was kind of my follow-up question actually.
Yes,
So,
yeah, we absolutely
is
need to
how
set up
and
conditions.
how
for
might
flow.
you do that in a swimming context?
Yeah, so it's quieting our mind. So we have our inner critic. that likes to chat away at us and likes to tell us unkind things in our minds because we have quite a negative bias. So it's really finding a quiet mind, talking to yourself in a really nice way, being a bit self-compassionate, um, and trying to, and then when you are in that state, is also making sure that you are still challenged, you are still pushed. Um, and what else do we need to be in that state? Really, a quiet mind, I'd say. A quiet mind so that you can push yourself forward.
Yeah, so for me, I think if I'm thinking it in the context of swimming, so if I'm doing a training session, then having a set that I know I can do, but I know I'm going to have to work quite hard to do it.
Mm,
But I'm pretty confident that I will get
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So there's the physical challenge, but sometimes there's a mental challenge with a swimming training set as well, because
yeah,
um, sometimes if you get feeling a bit tired, you know, I just want to stop. But sometimes if you push through that, it gets easier. And I think
yeah,
that is kind of when you experience flow. So,
yeah,
um, I
yeah,
think if you and this is I'm suggesting this is something for the people on the call, that maybe you can identify types of training sessions that move you to that state where it's gone from when the swimming feels a little bit clunky, maybe you're thinking about it a lot, you're thinking about your technique, and that kind of puts you off your rhythm, and then you move to a state where it starts feeling a lot easier, even if you're
mm,
tired. Um,
mm,
and
mm.
I guess that is, I mean, that's my experience of flow, and I don't know if that how that fits with the literature, but I guess
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. So we also need as humans recovery time as well. So there's probably a little bit of both, in swimming where you're recovering maybe from your day and you're in a state of contentment. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, if you're challenging yourself, absolutely, that will be flow. And also you've got all those delicious endorphins flowing as well. So, and you've reminded me there, Simon, thank you. When we're thinking about the conditions, of course, it's also our bodies, hydration, food, and that's for anything that we do. If we want to get into flow, it is setting up ourselves so we can, we're at our best in all ways, our mind and our body.
Mhm. Okay, so say you were going for a swim, you'd want to make sure, uh, maybe take a few minutes just to make sure you're calm before you get in the water. Make sure you've had a drink. Make sure you're properly fueled for that session, so that you can
Ex ex
perform at your optimum when you're
exactly,
in the water.
exactly.
Even though
Yeah.
it's not a performance situation, but it's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also maybe have cleared anything. Like, so fortunately, what's great about swimming is being in the water, you don't have anything pinging you, vying for your attention. You don't have screens that are, but anything that might be on your mind that you need to do, like get that done, get that out the way, clear it. Because we're not in the water for getting into flow, I'm literally often turning off my phone, turning off pings, quietening my mind before I can start writing or doing something. So it's the same in the water. It's what do you need to deal with that's not going to be on your mind. Simon, we've got a lovely comment here from Helena. To get into flow during swimming, I use for gratefulness mantras every day. I'm stronger and stronger, and play a motivating song in my head. Oh, I love that. I love that. Is there any science behind any of these? Can I answer that, please, Simon?
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so absolutely. So, what we know about our mindset is when we put our mind in positive, our prefrontal cortex widens and we're set up to perform much better. So, anything that is giving us positive emotions, we're going to perform much better. And often, and this is really, really important because often we think giving ourselves a hard time might drive us. It's like, well, no, I've got to be better and I've got to give myself a hard time. And actually, what that does, that releases the amygdala in the brain, the sense that kind of like, that fear response, and it shuts us down and it frees us and it narrows us. I love the positive mantras and the gratefulness using gratitude. I recommend gratitude so much. Three things you're grateful for each day. because it rewires our brain. It rewires our brain to look for the positive. It becomes a bit addictive. We're out there looking for the positives, and we just perform much, much better. So yes, sorry about that. I kind of
And that's all right. I think maybe because we've dived into the questions, we've got a few. One of them I think you can deal with quite quickly. It was the name of the researcher, Martin Selinger, wasn't it?
Martin Seligman.
Seligman.
I'll
Can
put
you
it in
can
the
you
chat.
write that in the chat? Is that all right?
Yeah.
And so we've talked about what Helene just said, and um, so we've got a comment here from Deborah. I think swimmers tend to be resilient both in the water and in life generally. As an older swimmer in my 50s, this is becoming tougher. Any advice? This is around resilience, a question about resilience and how that might link to
Yeah.
are we going to end up going off on a tangent here, or is that something that you can
Yeah, I don't mind going off on a tangent if you're happy
to
with that.
respond to that?
Fine.
How can positive psychology and
Yeah.
flourishing help us with resilience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to quickly read the question again. Yeah, resilience. Um, I do have a few things around resilience. So I think it's always put the reason why you're doing it, come back to your purpose, come back to your why. Why am I doing this? And sometimes when we connect to that, our critical voice that we beat ourselves up about, I'm not as tough as I used to be, I'm not as strong as I used to be, I'm not as fast, just quiet as why am I here? What is it I want? I want my body to stay strong. I want my body to, so to really connect with the why you're doing it. And I'd also say about acceptance. So when we sometimes, again, it goes back to what I was saying about sometimes we'll really give ourselves a hard time. When we accept a situation, we actually move forward quicker. So it's asking ourselves, what do we need to accept about ourselves? What do we need to accept about the situation? And then move forward from there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering, particularly relevant to this question, that obviously as we do get older, um, that the goals that we have for swimming might change and adapt,
mm,
and perhaps move away from very specific performance related goals to more goals around supporting our health and well-being for the
mm,
long term and for longevity. And whether if reframing our swimming like that um, can help us avoid some of the disappointments that we might experience if we have high performance goals that we can no longer meet because of
yeah.
natural aging processes.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, Simon. And it's the goals, setting really meaningful goals. Why are we setting these goals? What are they for? And I love something that Vassal said a couple of weeks ago when his is it Channel Swim that he hasn't even done yet. He just loves the
Yeah.
training. And what I thought about that when I was listening is that when we're setting ourselves goals, it's so important that we're going to enjoy the process as much as what we achieve that goal. And Vassos actually had gone the full process of achieving that goal. And it's all about the process rather than achieving
Mm,
that goal. So yeah, I really love that. It's actually thinking about the goal, the why we're doing it, the self-acceptance. Because when we're not accepting something, maybe it can become quite jarring and it actually becomes more difficult to move through.
mm.
Um,
So,
and
specifically on goals, because that was one
yes,
of your five things,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and moving towards goals and talking about enjoying the process of getting to those goals. And but our goals sometimes are a double-edged sword because you might set yourself up, you're all motivated, you train for something, and then something goes wrong, and you don't achieve that goal you've set yourself.
Mm, mm,
And that can be, that can be damaging to your morale,
yeah.
to how you feel about yourself. And so, how do you manage that? If you always set yourself goals that you can achieve super easily, you're not ever gonna challenge yourself and not get into flow. If they're too
Yes.
hard, you're always going to get frustrated. How do you get, the goals that you might or might not make, and then deal with the fact that some of them you actually aren't going to achieve?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love this question, Simon. You're going to have to keep me coming back to it because I'm going to get off track and I've got loads to say. And it also relates to the question about, what do we do when we're not as strong or we're feeling less resilient? So, a thing I use all the time with clients is the what went wells. So, whatever happens, and again, we're so primed for negativity is asking ourselves what went well. What went well, whether it's a training session, whether it's an event, a race, what went well. Because ultimately, we're just doing it for ourselves. The compare and despair thing, just it's about ourselves. So what did I learn and what went well? And again, it's not acceptance of, okay, I would still want to achieve my goals. But if we give ourselves a hard time, it's just so much harder to then move forward. So in the what went well is three what went wells. Okay, so you can do it every day, regardless of how if things went really well or not. Three things that went well and then why they went well. So you've got six positives there. And again, you're just setting yourself up and rewiring your brain rather than looking at the negative things. And then go again. Go again. The other thing I love is the power of the word yet when we're trying to be more resilient, we're trying to reach our goals. So you may say, I can't swim that far. I'm not fast. I'm no good at sighting. You put the word yet at the end of each of those sentences. And it changes you from being, that's who you are, that's the way it is, and you kind of accept, oh, I'll go again. I'll try again. Because none of us are the finished article. Um, and it's giving ourselves that also self-compassion. So we are our own worst critics. But when we give ourselves that self-compassion, it is so much more likely we'll go again. And the reason for that being is that we are all a little bit addicted to dopamine as humans. And when we give ourselves a hard time, instead of getting up and going again, we'll actually do something really stupid because we just want some dopamine. So we'll be like, right, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go and, going to just go and watch TV or watch Netflix or, I'm not going to go training tonight or something. So we'll just want a quick fix because get out of the pain that we're giving ourselves.
Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna keep you. How are we doing for time? We're halfway through. I'm gonna keep you on the 5 points for a little bit longer, um,
Okay.
because I think that's sort of the framework and the
Okay.
recipe. And
Yes.
you
Yeah.
talked about connection. Now, obviously, and I think probably a lot of people here will be part of a swimming group
Mm. Mm.
and build connections through that. I know not everybody is, but a lot of people are. But is there a way that you can use your swimming to make those connections more deliberate and more purposeful to support your flourishing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I say about these five things, and again, it is one of many well-being theories. So, I always encourage my clients to make their own, what works for them is what works for you and what you need. But what's really nice about it is when we know a little bit of the science and we know that we can be just more intentional. So, and I'd say that actually, if you want to make more connections, if you're feeling like that would be really make you much happier, you know yourself, it's just then getting intentional around it. And I know swimmers eat a lot of cake. So is it turning up with the cake? Is it creating a group? But it's really getting intentional about making those connections and then being quite vulnerable. We connect to vulnerability, just get putting yourself out there. And it can be really scary. And I know it's so much easier said than done. Absolutely. But we're all, and so many of us are behind screens these days. So it's so often that people, and I know, gosh, the swimming world, everyone's so friendly and lovely. Yeah, sorry, Simon, I don't even know if that answered the question.
It was around, can you be, um, you know, it. So we have our swimming groups, and you can, you just go along, and if you're lucky, you meet lovely people there, and you kind of fall in with them and join in their swimming. And quite often you build social networks out beyond the swimming through swimming. And but I'm just wondering if that I mean, for me, I think I've been really lucky with where I live, the people I've met, the people I can swim with.
Mm.
And but if you haven't had that, is there a way that you can maybe build that or make it happen? So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah, and
just luck.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think it's being a bit vulnerable. I think it's putting yourself out there and being brave, and dialing up a bit of courage. Yeah, we can go on to our strengths that we all have 24 incredible character strengths within us, and courage can be higher and lower on some people, and sometimes it's just knowing that we've got to dial up that courage, put ourselves out of our comfort zone, and connect. And if it doesn't go well, we accept it. You tried, you give yourself a pat on the back. But yeah, and I think what it's just being really intentional, knowing that actually I want some better connections. I want to make some friends. I'm going to put myself out there. Is the first step.
Okay. I'm gonna have a quick scan through the
Yes.
comments again to see if there are any more questions. Um, so Sophie has made the comment. Sophie, hi Sophie. Sophie writes for us at the magazine sometimes,
Oh,
so
hi,
really pleased she's
Sophie.
able to join us on the call. And she said that's like me with seasickness. I don't know which comment this was actually referring to now because she
Oh,
put this
and
up to
maybe
me. I knew
acceptance.
I would be seasick, and before getting on the boat, accepted I was going to be seasick. And by doing that, it helped me still be able to swim at my best, despite being seasick.
Wow,
And
brilliant.
okay, so I think this is a good question. It's a very specific question, and it probably affects a lot of people. And and I've certainly been through injury that stopped me swimming in the past. How can the theories around flourishing and positive psychology help you when you've got a setback due to injury? Or I mean, there are all sorts of reasons why we might get set back and stop from swimming or stop from doing the things we want to do.
Yeah, yeah,
How
it's really rubbish. And especially because we know the exercise gives us such great endorphins and gives us those positive emotions. So I think it would be looking at different ways we can get those positive emotions. It's knowing that, you know, we don't just get happy. Some of us are more we have a higher predisposition to happiness, but actually we've got to sometimes work at it. So there is other ways that we can do. We know that things like yoga, meditation, mindfulness are ways to get endorphins. And I know as swimmers, you're like, oh, but I want to swim. But and the gratitude journaling, gratitude, what we're grateful for. And again, it rewires the brain from looking at the positives than looking at the negatives, and connections. And it's what's in your toolkit. It's building your toolkit that's going to be really intentional for you, that what's going to help you until you're recovered and able to swim again. Um, Sorry, I just thought of something and I've lost it. No, sorry, Simon, keep going.
well, I'll give an example. I had prolapse disc in my neck
Oh,
a few
that's not
years
good.
ago, and it caused me a lot of pain shooting down my left arm, and it took me out of swimming for several months. And very frustrating because I didn't even know at the time. I didn't even know if I would be able to swim again because that's how painful it was. I could not imagine being able to swim again. And the only thing, but what I could do is I had some exercises from a physiotherapist. So I
Mm,
just had to put my focus on those and be diligent about those and make my goal to do my exercises every day.
yeah.
And then when I was able to get back into the water, I still couldn't swim. I couldn't turn my head. So I had to swim with a snorkel. So I had to find ways that I couldn't do tumble turns. Um, and I couldn't go in open water because I couldn't do sighting. So I had to find ways to manage all those different things.
Mm,
But some of those things became quite challenging in themselves. And
mm,
so there was one time when I couldn't sight when I went into open water, but I could breathe to the side once I got that motion back. So I went swimming with a friend who agreed to swim next to me, so I could just watch
mm,
them and not have to do the sighting.
mm.
So finding there was ways to find
That's
um,
yeah, that's
things to
re
do
yeah,
to
that's
keep moving
really
forward.
impressive. And can I
And
ask, how was your mindset in all of this?
it was very up and down.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you fighting it Or
Oh,
you,
denying it
yeah,
initially, trying to ignore it, trying to take painkillers so I could keep swimming. Yeah, all of that. And
yeah,
I'm sure anyone who's been through any sort of injuries can probably relate to that whole process. And the times of when you think you're never going to be able to swim again, that sort of despair. But but
yeah,
I am a swimmer and I can't swim, and
yeah.
it's almost like an attack on your identity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Science shows us that meditation is really good when we're in despair. Really, really good. It calms us. It lowers that amygdala in our brain. It's a really, if you can now.
Mm,
Sometimes when we feel, just so, absolutely at the bottom, wiped out, it's really hard to get into any states of meditation. But the science really shows us that it's helpful for
mm,
those states. Um, and again, it's self-compassion and self-acceptance when you can, when you get to that stage of what do you ask yourself, what do I need to accept about this situation? What do I need to accept about myself?
mm.
And then you can move forward.
Yeah,
It's the
and then
hardest one though.
what can I do? I think that was when it changed for me. It's that what can I do,
Yes,
not what
yes.
can't I do.
Yeah, and I think until we get to that point, sometimes we can't move ourselves forward because we're
Mm,
stuck. We're stuck. And again, we know that the negative emotions that's doing that to the brain, we won't start problem solving because that problem solving bit is cut down, it's shut off.
mm,
When we're kind of like, not letting ourselves accept something and
mm.
fighting it, we're not going to see possibilities so well.
Okay, we've gone way off the script that we
We
kind of
have,
discussed in advance, but I
we
think
have.
there was one question that I wanted to ask you, and I know that swimming isn't your main sport, so
Yeah.
but I know that you're active and you do
Yes. Yes.
get involved in sport in other ways. Can you give us an example from your sporting life where you've used positive psychology? Uh,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Yeah, so I use so for me it's a practice. I'm using positive psychology all day every day. It's a practice that I do and I know that my toolkit that I need. One I suppose a good example is when I had a meniscus tear. And I was halfway around a 10K, and I was in a relay, and I had to get to my second person to pass the baton, and I was in a lot of pain. And I thought, "Oh, I'm not going to get there." And it was a lot of pressure because I could let myself down. I really didn't want to let my teammate down. Um, and what I did is I just looked around and I heard also Deborah say this when she was swimming the channel and she was finding it tough when your guest in January. And I just thought, what can I take from the day? What can I take from the day? I felt really flat. I felt slightly embarrassed and ashamed that I'd let my friend down. And there were people at each gate like showing us through. It was this time of year actually. So it was spring was just starting, the blue skies was just starting. So I'd see people around who were, kind of manning gates around the village. And I just kept telling myself, what can I take from today? And it did get me round, it powered me through. And I ended up running up the last hill to my teammate and passing the baton and collapsed. So do you know what? I could have probably done it anyway without all that, but it
Mm.
made it. I just it made it better for me, and I think it fueled me in that
Okay,
moment.
so you turned what would have been a very miserable, painful experience into something that was a happy but still painful experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was still painful. I've had it operated on now, so yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Can we talk a little bit about how, and we mentioned this at the beginning, how you could deliberately use the ideas from positive psychology to improve our swimming performance? For
yeah,
example, if we had, a race coming up or a long distance swimming challenge,
yeah,
how we can use positive psychology to help us get us in the best frame of mind and
yeah.
physical state for that event.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll first start with training because I'll talk about willpower first of all for the training and then the actual day. Does that work?
Hmm.
Um, so because it's really interesting the science and the research around willpower. Um, and there's a brilliant psychologist called Kelly McGonigal, and she has written a lot about willpower. And she looks at our brain as though we have two minds. And one mind is on our long-term goals, and the other is all about our short-term goals. And how we set ourselves up is how we can keep an eye on those long-term goals. So the long-term goal is the event. The short-term goal might be, well, I've got to get out this morning, I've got to get swimming training, but actually it's really dark, it's cold, it's miserable. And the short-term goal is I want to turn around and go to sleep. So it's like, it's that willpower challenge. It's how we get the willpower to keep an eye at all times on our long-term goals. So she gives some really great advice on it. So first of all, setting ourselves up.
Oh, hang on, let me just see if I think I need to put. Oh, hang on. There's a couple of people in the waiting room,
Yeah, I'm omitting them as well.
and I need to put someone on mute, I think. Okay.
Um, so we are much better at staying focused on our long-term goals when we are when again our brain and our prefrontal cortex is open and wide and on fire, and we can get that through sleep, eating well. So when we look after ourselves, we're much more likely to be focused on our long-term goals. And I know it's a little bit cyclical there, but so it's first of all it's looking after ourselves. Um, a great thing to do is to get to know that future self at the end of the event, at the end of the race. And how, because often we'll be so fixated on where we are now, we forget that that future person ending that race exists. Um, and a really great idea to get to know ourselves is to write ourselves a letter from that moment when we end a race, that moment when we do something, a goal, finished a goal that we really want. So we write ourselves a letter about how it feels, who's around us, what's going on, what's being said. And when you have moments where you're like, oh, do I want to turn up for training? Do I want to do this? You read your letter and it takes you to that moment. And it's really, really powerful. Another thing is, and I'm sure your guests will know this, to make things easy. We know any hurdle sometimes, we won't do it. Have the kit out, the car ready, all those things. Um, and when you miss a day, I did this earlier in January. I had a challenge. I missed a day. When we give ourselves a hard time, we are likely to jack the whole thing in. Quickly forgive yourself and get back out. And so it's self-compassion. Talk to yourself the way you talk to a friend. So those are the things that we can really do to set ourselves up. And also just knowing that willpower alone isn't sometimes enough. Willpower is, we are so pulled by the short-term things around us and competing needs that we really need to set ourselves up and our minds up that we can get our long-term goals. Um, so event day, again, I would look at how you're talking to yourself. Are you in a state of hope or are you in a state of fear? Are you worried you won't end the race? You won't be able to sight? Are you hopeful that you're going to smash it, do really well? And why I talk about hope and fear is because sometimes they can seem like the same things. We might hope for something to happen and then fear that it won't. Um, However, they're really different physiologically for us. So when we're hoping something happens, again, we're just energized. Everything's switched on in us. It just fuels us so much further. Hope narrows us, fear narrows us, it drains us, it shuts us down. So it's how you can flip it, how you can flip what if I don't finish to what if I do great today? And again, it's like connecting to why you're doing it. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? And get curious around your body as well. Get curious around how's it going to feel? How's it going to do? And it just again quietens down those nerves, that inner dialogue, and puts you in a really good mindset. I'd also say, sorry, I'm going to check my notes here, Simon, because I'm going to forget some things. Um, your definition of success. What is success to you on that day? Really stay connected to that. What is success for you? And then why are you there?
So that whole thing about the hope and fear, I wonder if we could explore that a little bit more
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
um, it can be quite hard to control your thoughts around that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and say you're doing a long swim and you're starting to get tired and you're starting to get cold, and that can change your mental state. You might have gone in very positively, but then I don't know, the waves keep smacking your face and the wind is cold and it's stopped being fun.
Mm.
Um, and so you start thinking about, I don't know, you know what, I could just get out now, it'll be fine, nobody cares. Uh, but you know that you're going to feel, if you do that, you're probably going to feel bad about
Yeah,
yourself
yeah,
afterwards.
yeah.
Um, which is totally the opposite of being kind to yourself, obviously. So, any tricks to kind of, or any techniques, I think that's a better word than tricks, to kind of keep yourself in that hope, um, optimistic state rather than this fear state that can creep in uninvited.
Yeah, and do you know what? I'd probably say that it is hard in that stage, and it's finding what can work for you. It's finding what works for you. So, is there something that you can just focus on completely differently? Is there like, okay, what can I be grateful for? I had a lovely chat when I was just waiting to get in the water then. I met a new person. So it may be
Mm.
that you completely move away from the hope and fear, and you're just like, okay, I just need to think of some really nice things to distract myself right now. And that's okay too. So every and what it is really, and you're so right, Simon, it is hard to not let our minds go back to fear. And it's a practice. It's a practice because we are wired for negativity. We're wired to protect ourselves. So it's keep practicing. And I think that when we're doing hard things and we're trying to achieve our goals, if we're doing it for, and this is no bad thing, but, many goals are for maybe praise or we want to impress others, or we might be looking forward to put it on social media and all those things. They will get us so far. They will really fuel us so far. But if we think about the reasons, our real intrinsic reasons for why we're doing it, and go back to those and like, no, I want to see what my body can do. This is my challenge about me. And that will sustain you farther and actually give you a little less stress as well. Those extrinsic things that we may chase, they will also add at those times when we're trying to achieve a goal. They'll add to the pressure. But when we connect to the really our reasons for doing things and what it means to us, and maybe it's wanting to to be proud of ourselves or all those things, we can take more than just looking at the more extrinsic things.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we put ourselves in a sort of binary situation, like you either succeed or you fail, but it doesn't always need to be like that. It could be like, what I'd really like to do is win this race, but okay, if I can't win this race, just getting round is actually quite a good thing. Um, and if I can't get round, maybe getting to halfway this time is actually a good thing. You can,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So define success on your terms. What is success?
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and it might change if you've been ill the week before, and if you've been planning to a top performance, and then you've been ill, you have to say, okay, maybe the performance isn't going to be what I hoped 6 weeks ago, but it's going to
yeah.
be the best that I can do
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, and I know the GB Olympic rowing team do this. They do all their evaluations before the team go and row. They don't ever evaluate themselves and the team on the results they get on the day. They evaluate the process, what they've been going through, what they've put in,
okay.
and it's really, marking the process as much as the results.
Okay. So you look back and you say, okay, I've trained for 6 months. I've really improved my fitness. I've done a lot of work on my technique. And these are all positive things. So regardless of what happens
Absolutely.
today, I've got all this in the bank,
Yes, yes,
essentially.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Absolutely. I love that. Yes. Yes, Simon.
Okay, I'm really interested about the around the topic of goals because and then someone has asked a question or put a question or a statement a bit earlier on that I wanted to drop back to, and I wanted to get your take on this. This is Sophie again, and Sophie has done some absolutely amazing swimming. So, she says a goal isn't a goal without it being scary. And I wonder how that aligns with what you're
Mm,
saying about positive
mm.
psychology and flourishing.
Yeah. And again, it's that
And
feeling of
that idea, sometimes the scary goals are also the ones that really excite you and they get your heart pumping and they're the
exactly.
ones
Yes.
that
Yeah.
that
And
really
make you feel
drive you.
alive. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
also they're the ones with the higher risk of failure.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And I think that we should always push for difficult goals. Absolutely. We should push. It shouldn't be about not pushing ourselves because we know that when we achieve our goals, we have such a great sense of well-being.
Mm,
Absolutely. So I'm not suggesting in any way we don't push for goals. Um, it's that if we talk to ourselves in a negative way or don't put our mindset, we may not even perform as well. So it's actually putting
mm,
our mindset in our best place so we can perform at our best
mm.
um, on the day.
Yeah,
Can
and
I
then
quickly
celebrating
explain
the
what I
process
mean?
and being kind to ourselves if we don't make it. Sorry, was that a comment? So, Sophia, did you want to jump in with a comment there?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say that I don't mean all goals have to be huge, like an English Channel swim or whatever, and scary. I mean, like, if you set yourself the goal that you want to go and do a 3 kilometer swim in training and it's a session that you've not done before,
Hmm.
then that can be a bit scary just in that small
Hmm.
one. So
Mm,
Yeah.
it's kind of the overall goal might be absolutely terrifying and you don't know it's something you don't are not 100% sure you can do, because if you can
mm,
do it then it's not really a goal,
yeah.
in my eyes anyway. But it's all of the little goals within that big goal that I find the most important and the most rewarding. So
Hmm.
like for me with my chronic pain, if I'm having a day where I'm in a lot of pain, I've had to take extra painkillers and I don't know that I'm going to last like an hour or 2 hours or however long the swim is in the water, I do sort of the positive self-talk through the whole swim. I have to.
Hmm.
It's the only way I can get through it quite often. And actually, when I get out, I don't care how far I've swum or how fast I've swum. I've got in and swum. And that's the
Mm,
important bit. So actually,
mm,
it's
Yeah.
not just the big goals, it's often the really small ones that are the most important within that big one. And if you can achieve all the little goals, then that makes you be able to achieve the big goal, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
And the other thing I noticed there is the sort of the kindness to yourself along the way that you're praising yourself for achieving those smaller goals along the way.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that was something else that Lexi was talking about how we need to sort of you know yeah, be kind, talk to ourselves as if we're talking to a friend rather rather
yeah.
than
I
someone we
mean, I
don't know.
constantly have conversations with myself when I'm swimming. It keeps me entertained.
Yeah.
I love it,
I know that
Sophie.
sounds really daft, but I constantly do, or I sing songs because it keeps me occupied on long swims. You've got to find things to keep
Yeah.
Yeah,
yourself
yeah.
occupied.
I
And
love.
if you're struggling like night swimming and you're starting to feel cold or whatever, it's kind of if you're telling yourself and constantly reminding yourself you're cold and it's miserable, then you feel more miserable and more
Yeah,
cold.
Yeah.
yeah,
So like with
absolutely.
my yeah, with my channel swim, so like when I started to feel cold, I was like, yeah, I feel cold now, but in 6 hours' time it's going to be daylight and I'll have the sun on my back, so it's all right. I've just got
Wow.
to get to that 6 hours sort of thing, if that
Wow,
makes
that's
sense. I
impressive.
know that's
Sophie,
pretty
honestly, I don't know
extreme,
how you do it.
That's
I'm
really
but
always in
impressive.
awe when I look at what you do.
Sophie, you've
but
you've
that's
reminded
that's
me of
how I sort of
something.
process through it.
I love it, Sophie, and thank you because you've really reminded me of something that I think is really actually important to share because what you've shared with us there is like if you think of three circles, the inner circle is where we sit when we're in our comfort zone.
Yeah,
The next circle is our stretch zone, and we should definitely go into our stretch zone. And then we come back to our comfort zone and go back into our stretch
yeah,
zone, come back into our comfort zone. And then when we go outside our stretch zone, we're in my oh my God zone. Oh
Yeah,
my God, zone is really quite stressful. Sometimes people go in there when they have really amazing opportunities. And so I'm not saying don't go in your oh my God zone. But what happens is when we go from our keep going from our comfort zone to our stretch zone and coming back for recovery, coming back, and this is anything in life, but I love how you've described it here, is that stretch zone becomes then your
gets
comfort
bigger.
zone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, your comfort zone gets
yeah.
bigger and then your stretch zone. So you're reaching your goals. And I love how you talked about those small steps. Absolutely. Everything is those incremental steps building. Yeah, thank you, Sophie. That
It's one of the reasons that I have social media, and it's one of the reasons that I post my swims and my training swims on there, because it's almost a little pat on the back for me. I don't really care what anyone else thinks in the nicest way possible to anyone else that's on
yeah,
social media, but it's
yeah.
a little pat on my back. I always
Yeah,
reflect on my
and
swim
yeah,
and what I've
another one ticked off.
got
Yeah.
out of the swim. Yeah, I'm not on TikTok. I don't do videos.
No, I didn't say TikTok. Another swim ticked off. It's like
Oh, ticked off. Yeah, yeah. So
another brick
it's
in your wall
another.
of
Oh, I've
training.
done it. I felt rubbish, but
Yeah.
actually this week, yeah, it's all right.
Um,
I've done what I wanted to do. Didn't need
yeah.
to do any more than that. Let's get on with it.
Um, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Lexi, someone asked if do you mind just popping in the chat the name of the person who had the theory around the two mindsets, the long term versus the
Yes.
short term,
Kelly. Oh, I don't know if I can go
if you
on
can
this.
spell it.
Oh.
And okay, I think we need a whole another topic on this. Someone's asked about the science of listening to music before swims.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Anything that's pushing positive. Yes.
Because
Yes.
it just puts you in a positive frame of
Because
mind.
we go further, our brains are more open. Our prefrontal cortex is turned on, and when our prefrontal cortex is turned on, we can overcome challenges much better. We
Mhm.
perform better. Absolutely. Anything that's
Okay.
going to put us in positive.
Yeah.
Apart from anything
Um,
like illegal, maybe.
um, okay, and then Alice has commented that when she feels like giving up, she asks herself, "How will I feel if I give up?" And then I ask myself how I feel if I continue, and she uses that to sort of reframe how she's
Yeah.
thinking.
And I love that. And
Actually,
that's part of thinking about our future selves. So we're
yeah,
taking ourselves out of that moment, that mindset that, that challenging, that wants to stop, wants the cake, wants the warmth, to put ourselves in that future self that
yeah, and
exists.
and I think that the next comment, and you mentioned something that I wrote down. You said, "Don't compare and despair," um,
Mm,
and which is something we're obviously very prone to, is comparing
yeah.
ourselves with other people. And Mia has commented that she has a chronic illness that means she has to scale her goals down compared with other people. Um, and she's just written that she has to stop herself from saying, I'm just doing just in capitals in
Mm,
bold, I'm just doing
mm,
250. She's setting herself a personal challenge because that's important to her.
mm.
And and I think, yeah, Mia, there are lots of people that set goals that are at different scale to other people, all for their own reasons. And I think having your own goal with your own reasons I think that's exactly what Lexi's been saying, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you've also all this chat has reminded me of, and I don't know if I can share it in the chat. It's I have these circles of what's in our control, what's in our influence, what's outside our not in our control, and actually very little is in our control. But our mindset, our attitude, our positivity, our actions, our responses, that's about it that's in our control in life. And when we control those and accept that that's all we control, then everything else becomes
That's
sometimes a little
that's
bit
very
easier.
stoical.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a practice for me too. It's a practice.
Okay. We've kind of run out of time. I mean, that absolutely flew by that hour, Alexi. Thank you very much. Can you
Pleasure.
just in case anyone wants to follow up, and I don't know if you do offer you do work with people on a one-to-one basis, and I think do you work with people in group settings as well? If anyone wants to
Yes,
find out
yes,
a bit more, how can they find you and
yes,
see what
yeah,
you do?
yeah. So I don't know why I've put Alexis here. I'm Lexi Tinkler. So I'm lexitinkler.com. Yes, I work for individuals, I work for corporations, I do one-to-one coaching, and yes, so any inquiries or any opportunities to speak or anything, I'm open. So yes.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Simon. Thank
much.
you very
No, that
much.
was super that you came on, and it's great to get you back involved
Oh,
in the
I've loved it. I
magazine.
loved it. And I'm going to do the North Twin.
Okay, and thank you everyone for posting your questions and joining us and supporting Outdoor Swimmer. It's great to see you all here. Thank you very much. I'm hoping to get another talk in about 2 weeks' time with the chap who created the Don't Be Prey film. But I haven't announced it yet and I haven't set it up, but look out for that because I think that will be really interesting if we can get him on. Then we'll be keeping running these through the summer. I don't know what we've got next, but hopefully in about 2 weeks' time we will have another one, so look out for that. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording now.